What's up, everybody? Welcome to tonight's episode of the Not Your Average Mark Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Guapo, the tutorial boss, and with me is the man who taught Jim Cornette how to swing a racket, the one and only Rick Elzy. Rick, what's up?
That is such a blatant lie. Good Lord. Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here. Always like to talk wrestling.
It's always a good time when you're on. Now, this show a little bit different. We're doing things a little differently. Of course, Halloween happening while this is airing. We're recording this the night before because we're going to be out with our favorite ghouls and goblins on Halloween night. So want to start by telling everybody happy Halloween. And if you're out and about trick-or-treating, just make sure you keep an eye out. If you're out and about, kids are going to be out, man. Just keep an eye out for the little kids. Slow down. Don't drive so fast. And make sure to get your dad tax when you're checking out all the candy. That's an important thing. Like that's the whole thing. You gotta do the dad tax. We're gonna start the show off tonight with some thank yous. Want to thank Ross and the boys from Labor 12 for our intro outro music. Track's called Head Rush, album's called Monsters. They've got big things in the works, and you can find out all about it at labor12.com. That's laborxii.com. I want to thank Joseph and American Legacy for the Not Your Average merch. We've got hats, skull caps, beanies, t-shirts. We got all the cool things. I want to thank J-Rebs 3D Printing for this little piece of awesomeness right here. If you've got a logo, something you want to turn into a light box that does cool stuff like that, head over to jrebs3dprinting.com. He'll get you taken care of. Big thanks to heckyeahradio.com. If you happen to miss one of our shows, you can get the audio version of our podcast by going to heckyeahradio.com and clicking on the Not Your Average Mark button. Blind Ambition Studios for all of our awesome graphics. The WrestlingSociety.com for including us in their podcast room. And of course, the one who makes everything happen, the guy. I want to give a big shout out to him. Make sure you go check out his work. And where can you do that? You can do that at NotYourAverageMark.com. That's right, we have a website. You can watch the show live from there. You can check out all the older episodes of the show. You can buy merch. You can give us feedback. That it's all there. He's done a great job with it. So make sure you go check out NotYourAverageMark.com. And with that, let's get into some wrestling.
Alrighty then.
Changing the format up just a little bit. And I hope as you're watching this, you'll let us know in the comments on this or get on socials and let us know what you think about the changes. Instead of going through SmackDown, going through Raw, going through everything, our first segment is going to be called Main Roster Moments. It's kind of a collection of the big things that happened on SmackDown and Raw together. And to start that off, let's talk about the fact that we have a triple threat for the U.S. title set up. Of course, Andrade and Melo, this thing that was supposed to start out as just bragging rights, has turned into a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're both 3-3. They're going to go for the who's going to win it match. LA Knight is your special guest referee. And who wins the match? LA Knight wins the match because he's, LA Knight. Yeah.
Well, LA Knight had issues with both guys. And so the fact that he was even the ref of the match should have told everybody that match was going to a non-decision and we're building to a triple threat.
Yes.
And so for me, I feel like LA Knight is one of those guys that he's over like Rover. Having the U.S. title does nothing for LA Knight.
No,
he's already.
That was a moment for him.
It was a moment. Getting him the title was nice. The way he got the title was nice. He beat a guy that helped. It helped establish LA Knight in that moment. But now, what are we doing? Because unfortunately, now with this title, you're kind of got LA Knight pigeoned into a place where we really can't beat him unless we switch the title. Mm-hmm. And so what are we doing? Baby faces don't have to win all the time. As a matter of fact, it's better for that baby face if they actually lose more than they win because the groundswell of support gets bigger. Well, you can't do that if you're champion. So I feel like that belt's coming off of him this weekend at Crown Jewel.
Oh,
I'm
don't get
not
too far into
positive.
that. We got predictions coming up.
I know, I get it. I'm just saying, I feel like we did what we did on SmackDown to get to this place so that the end goal can be LA Knight leaves Saudi without that belt so that we can do LA Knight things without having to worry about that title.
No, and I agree with that. I think that's kind of what we're looking at. I love the fact that Nick Aldis straight up, like he takes no mess from nobody and
Yeah.
straight up made the triple threat. And
Yeah.
so I dug that. As we're talking about championships and stuff, we can't leave out the fact that the Motor City Machine Guns finally on a WWE roster come out and not only beat DIY to become number one contenders, but immediately go into a match against the Tongans, win the match, and become your tag team champions.
You know, I could be wrong about this. And I don't count Paige beating AJ Lee because Paige was already an NXT person. But I think this is the first debut on TV where, like, like I know it's not their actual debut match because the debut match was the one that got them here.
Yeah, last week.
But coming in this quickly from the outside, not being part of the developmental program. The last time I remember a person coming in and winning a title this quick was when Jerry Lynn came in 2001, or I think it was actually 2000, maybe not, maybe 2001. But he came in and beat Crash Holly for the light heavyweight title like that.
Yep.
And I can't think of anybody since then that's come from outside of the company that won a title this quick that didn't go through NXT.
Well, and I feel like
And I could be wrong.
The title change needed to happen because
Oh yeah,
what's fixing to happen with the bloodline does not need titles involved.
no, and that's again, you've got people out there that having a title can help you for a few minutes, but if you've got a really thick story that's got a lot of stuff involved in it, like the bloodline does, they don't need the belts.
Well, and the Motor City Machine Guns, part of them winning that match against the Tongans was the come from the crowd, of course, black hoodie, black shoes, the whole nine, and interference by one main event, Jey Uso. So
On the heels of them costing him the Intercontinental title.
Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit of revenge, but it's what happened after that that the wrestling world's been talking about all week. And that is the fact that with Jey in the ring, Jimmy comes out and the Usos hug it out, middle of the ring to end the show. I could not have been happier about it. I think it was awesome. The one problem I do have, and we'll get a little more into this as we go through our main roster moments, is I feel like as much as I want this, I feel like we're getting at a point where we're rushing a few things.
I think it's moving quicker than I've anticipated that it would. But if it's moving quicker, that makes me wonder what do we have planned down the line? If we're taking some steps faster than anticipated, it has to be because there's another plan that we want to get to. I mean, I would think. So, but I agree with you. I agree with you. It's moving quicker than I anticipated that it would.
Yeah, I'm right there. It's moving quicker, and I'm with you in the fact that if we're taking this, what we assume to be the path the story is going on, and we're moving down it faster than anticipated, what has changed in the story and what do we have coming up? And that's exciting all by itself.
Yeah. I love the fact that we can talk about it all day long. We can pose ideas, what if, what they do this, what they do that. What I love about WWE right now is that I don't know what they're doing. And I love that.
Yeah, it's
I
an
love I
exciting feeling.
love that I can't sit there and pinpoint every single move they're making.
Well, and I've said it before on the show, like Bruss, my youngest son, he has said it time and time again that he enjoys independent wrestling because of just that reason. He can't tell you what's going to happen. And for a while there on WWE, he could say, okay, they're pushing this person, so that person's going to lose. Okay, they're doing this match. It's going to go to a no contest because they're not going to do this to the PLE. Like he could, you give him the card and he could tell you what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it got
Yeah.
really, really stale at that point. And I love the fact that we're beyond that now.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
One of the other cool things that happened is we found out at Crown Jewel, we're going to be having a 4-way women's tag match for the
Yes.
championship. So Bianca and Jade, of course, are women's tag team champions versus Damage Control, Io Sky and Kairi Sane, versus Piper and Chelsea, versus Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson.
Yeah.
This is going to be one hell of a match.
It should be. It should be.
The amount of
There's a
talent.
lot. There's a lot of confrontations in there that I'm really looking forward to. But if I'm being honest, the one confrontation I'm looking forward to more than any is Jade Cargill and Lash Legend.
Mm-hmm. I was just fixing to say the same thing.
I want to see a moment where they bump into each other from behind, turn around, face each other, and go toe to toe. I think that's a nice moment. It doesn't even have to last long, just a little bit to just make everybody go, that's what they need.
There's one thing that I've read a lot. You know me. I love to read the internet trolls, but there's one thing I've read a lot about that is a valid question in my opinion. You've got Piper Niven and Chelsea Green in this match.
Mhm.
They've spent a lot of time as the comedic side
Yes.
of the women's tag team wrestling.
Yes.
Do you see that happening in this match, or do we get to see a showcase of what Chelsea Green and Piper Niven can do?
I think we're going to get seriousness from Piper. I think Chelsea's high point is her comedy. So I think Chelsea's going to be the person who bumps all over the place for everyone. Truthfully, what I'm hoping for out of this, what I really want to happen, I think that those tag belts would be much better served in NXT for a little bit because there's so many women in NXT right now,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so many tag combinations in NXT. I feel like if those belts got a little bit of a 1 or 2 month run on TV every week in NXT, that could do a lot, not only for Lash Legends and Jakara Jackson, but it could do a lot for the belts.
I agree. I could definitely see it happening. The next thing we're going into, the opening of Raw. Of course, you had Jay and Jimmy talking, and Jay said something that I thought couldn't have been a better line. And that's, the fans no longer confuse us. They
Yeah.
know who you are. They know who I am. And that's full circle from, them being in the ring talking about, the thing that hurts them the most is somebody walking up and saying, "Which one are you?" It's a throwback to that, and I think it was really, really well used.
Yes, it was. I enjoyed it. I thought that opening segment was really nice. I liked it a lot. I like that Jay is not 100% on board with everything. I like that they're taking their time getting him there. I love the stuff with Sammy has been really good. I like that they are allowing these characters to not just blindly roll over and say, "Yeah, I'm cool,"
No,
because they shouldn't.
No, they shouldn't be at all. And that's part of what you get. That's what I was going to talk about next is Sammy talking to Jay, telling him, man, you don't have to pick a side. You could just not get involved because you stepped away from all of this. Why in the world are you going to step back?
Yeah.
Which he made valid points. But there's something Jay said during that interaction that kind of had everybody going, "What the hell?" And that's when Sammy says, "Why would you step back into this? I just don't understand." And Jay cut him short and said, "How could you understand? You ain't family, Oos." Like that was a gut check.
It was, and that's another thing. I love that because Jay was passionate in that moment, probably a little harsh, probably second guessed himself after he said it, but you can't take back what you just said because we all heard it. Sammy heard it. He reacted a certain way.
Can't put the toothpaste
And
back in the tube.
yeah, you can't. I mean, now Jay's going to have to explain that or try to atone for it. But then they did the thing at the end of the show
Mm-hmm.
where, they saw Sammy talking to Solo, which I'm positive is going to end up being Solo drove up on Sammy in the parking lot and rolled down the window and started talking, but it looks on the surface like Jay upset Sammy and Sammy ran to Solo. That's what it looks like. And I love that. That is such good writing.
It is.
It's well placed emotion that the crowd can get behind, and they're utilizing the fact that Solo and Sammy never had a problem.
No.
They never had a problem. The problem was always Sammy and Jay. It was never Solo and Sammy. So I love that because now we've got a question mark out there. What is Sammy going to do?
Well, and
It's awesome.
the emotion that's involved in it, because you've got one set of people that are going, "Jay, how could you say that to Sammy? After everything Sammy did for you, how could you say that?" And those exact same people are going and clutching their pearls, going, "Sammy, what the hell are you doing? How could you do that to Jay?"
I don't know. They've got people swinging back and forth on the same pendulum. It's awesome.
And I love it. I love every minute of it.
It's
Although
really good stuff.
I wouldn't have been completely against seeing Solo hit Sammy with the car
Mm-hmm.
and have the opportunity to say, "I did it for The Rock." Sorry, had to throw it out there.
No, I think that, look, I think it's great. And I'm excited to see where it goes from here. Obviously, SmackDown that's airing this Friday was taped last week.
Mhm.
So there's already spoilers out for people that don't know.
If you're going
Uh,
to say anything about said
I'm not.
spoilers, we need
I'm
to
not.
give a warning.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. I'm
Okay.
just going to. The only thing that I'm going to say is that they do something on that show to absolutely take another step.
Hmm.
And coming out of SmackDown, we will now have at least one answer as to who is going to step up against Solo's bloodline initially. And the numbers are not even. And so that's now, how do we get the numbers even? We've got this carrot dangled at us on Raw. There's a lot of stuff they can do. And don't forget, there's still one Tongan signed who has not hit television.
There's one.
So,
There's also one other person who's been signed and has not hit television. That's not a Tongan.
who
Zilla.
is he signed?
That was
'Cause
my understanding.
I haven't heard anything about him being signed.
All right,
I
so
know
this-
he. I
let
know
me,
he
let me pull the
worked for
curtain.
Booker
Let me pull the
T.
curtain back just a little bit. This is some things that if you're not a part of the business or know people that are in the business, you may not know. So I'm throwing that out there for everybody now. But our listeners are going to enjoy this because they're not your average marks, so they should know things like this. But Zilla, of course, has been just killing it on the independent circuit right now,
Mm-hmm.
and his booking fee has I'm not going to put it out there because that's his business, not mine to put out there, but his booking fee has nearly tripled. To me an indication that he's signed because if you are taking care of obligations you had before signing. My understanding is WWE gets a cut of that. So your fee is going to have to go up. So that's my
Well,
understanding.
and that is absolutely possible, but it also could be possible that just on the simple fact that he's part of that family, and because that family is so well known and such a big part of major wrestling television, he could be raising his price because he's associated with that storyline.
That's a possibility
But
also.
as far as I am to from what I've been privy to, he is working for Booker T,
Mhm.
and Booker T's adamant that he's going to help him get to WWE. But the last two or three things I've seen Zilla say online is that he has no interest in being there right now. He's in no hurry. And I know that that could just be him throwing stuff out there. But, Hikuleo has been wrestling now for 3 or 4 years. He was in New Japan, and he is still not on television, even though he's been signed since the Tongans came over.
Mhm.
If that guy with his experience is not on TV now, why would Zilla Fatu even be considered to be on television
Even
when
in
he
numbers.
doesn't he doesn't have he doesn't have half the credentials Hikuleo does.
No, he doesn't, but he's got the Fatu name.
Well, true, Jacob does too, and it took Jacob like 7 years to get there.
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, Zilla Fatu is essentially still a baby in the
You can tell
business.
him that. I'm not going to.
He's only 25.
I know. I know.
I mean, I'm not saying that he can't do something. I'm just saying I feel like I don't know until I see a major news outlet say he's signed. I'm going to go under the thought that he's not because I don't know.
No, I get you, and that's cool. We'll have to see where it goes. Now, there is one other side to this. You're talking about uh, the spoilers that have been shared, and I'm not going to share any of the spoilers, but one of the questions that was left for Raw is, and I think it's the question you were talking about, is okay, you've got Jimmy and Jay, and there's obviously some problem with Jimmy, Jay, and Sammy, but when they were hugging it out on SmackDown, did you notice the look that Roman gave? So we have not got Jimmy, Jay, and Roman 100% yet, and
No, not 100%. I mean, he definitely the look that I got for when I saw Roman's face. What I saw was we had Jimmy say we need help. Roman was adamant that it would not be Jay. They had the moment backstage where Jimmy and Jay, kind of bumped shoulders with each other, and then Jay really dissed Roman to his face.
mhm.
And then Jimmy shows up on his own to help and hugs his brother and shakes his brother's hand. And they look at Roman. And what I got out of Roman's face was, I've gone about this all wrong. And I'm a little humbled in this moment. That's what I got out of it.
And I can
And,
see that.
and
I
so I feel like now, with what we found out on Raw, Jimmy was like, hey, come talk to the OTC. Come talk to him. Let's see what we're going to get. And so that's the big selling point now for SmackDown is
mhm.
Jay said he'd be there to talk to Roman.
Well, and you
So
get a
now we
couple
got
of things out of this. You've got Jay's going to talk to Roman, and they're trying to put this all together. But Jay very adamant in the fact that, talking to Jimmy at the beginning of Raw, I'm not going to be anybody's henchman.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we do this, it's not going to be his henchman,
No.
and I love that.
Yeah. I mean that's where they were before. But if he's going to help, we're all going to be equals.
Yeah,
And that is exactly how it should be, you know. But
But how
I
many
think,
times have you seen a situation like this happen in televised wrestling that they don't it's not what it should be?
oh yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And I don't. We'll have to see where it goes. We'll have to see where it goes. If they can get on the same page, then it's 3 versus 4,
Hmm.
and then
Or
your
maybe
question
five.
comes in: what's going to happen? I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of things they could do. There's a lot of different ways they could go, and whatever they choose to do, I'm here for it because I'm interested right now.
I am too. Another storyline that's getting a lot of interest is the problems there seems to be continuing with the New Day, and I love how they flip flop this.
Yeah.
You had the New Day doing things, and you had Xavier Woods talking about, I'm mad about this, and I'm mad about that, and I'm mad about this, and Kofi being like, no, man, it's good, let's just do this. Well, in this particular instance, had a great match. New Day, the War Raiders, and LWO, great match, and the New Day could have won it, but Xavier got tunnel vision as it pertains to Rey Mysterio, and it cost him the match.
Hmm.
And when they're talking about it backstage, of course, they were interrupted by The Miz, and we'll get into all of that in just a second. When they're talking about it backstage, um, Xavier tells Kofi, "You know what, man? It's stressful. I understand. Let's just go to the car. We'll talk about it on the ride." And Kofi straight up told him, "Nah, man, I'll find my own ride." So now it's
Yeah.
kind of turning where Kofi's like, "No, I'm done with you." So I like the flip flop there.
Yeah, it is absolutely falling apart before our eyes. Um, Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm on. That's another storyline I'm invested in,
Mhm.
and that's a big thing because I haven't been invested in the New Day in a long time. The New Day is one of those groups that like, why is this even still a thing? It's just because what are they? They have done nothing of note.
Because
Yeah, it's just
J-Rex.
yeah. I disagree. I have a complete and utter apathy for the New Day.
Well, and
We're slightly ahead of our truth by that much.
now I'm glad you said that. You should be very careful about what you say about our truth, as was proved on Monday Night Raw. The Miz turned on our truth, and what happened to him? He was kidnapped and presumed dead.
Presumed dead. Yeah.
So, yeah,
I think there
our
is a
truth.
video out there of him duct taped. He's got duct tape over his mouth. There's a video or a picture at least surfacing.
I haven't seen that one. I have to look for that. But our truth, well, first off, Miz is out looking for Bo Dallas, A, to apologize, and so he doesn't get killed, and B, because if he doesn't find him and find out why the Wyatt Six did what they did, then, Karrion Kross is going to break his legs. One's permanent, one's not.
You
Miz
seen those
is in a bad
videos?
spot.
You seen those videos of Karrion Kross breaking bats?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Miz is trying really, really hard to find contact info for Bo Dallas. And he comes up to Truth and he tries to make fun of Truth, and Truth is like, "Oh, I got something for you too." Smack! Lays him out. And then gives the line of the night. Jumps over and looks at him and says, "Good luck with the Wyatts. You gonna die." And leaves.
Yeah.
Absolute line of the night. Moral of the story: none of this would have happened if he had not turned on the national treasure that is our truth. Let this be a lesson, Rick. Do
I,
not speak ill of our truth.
I feel like it's a little bit more that if he'd have just followed his own ideas and taken care of truth on his own without involving the final testament, then we wouldn't be where we are. I think that again, Karrion Kross is the poison that is ruining everything for Miz.
But Miz allowed himself to be poisoned and turned on our truth. And what happened? Now he's somewhere in a trunk with duct tape.
Well, if he's somewhere in a trunk with duct tape, he's safer than tagging with R-Truth, because at least in the trunk with duct tape, he can't be put in matches that he didn't ask for. He can't be set up to fight people that he doesn't want to fight, because for some reason R-Truth is incapable of even understanding who people are. So
I'm telling you now, Rick, you keep talking like this about R-Truth. There's going to be pictures that show up of Rick LZ with duct tape on his mouth. It's going to happen. I'm trying to give you warning here. Do not speak ill of R-Truth.
And to whoever wants to try to take me out, I say, bring it. Because there will never be a day where I don't completely tire of R-Truth's presence on my shows. And, I really enjoyed when he was hurt because I didn't have to look at him.
Well, to quote that great philosopher, the Hurricane, sup at that.
You'd think that the entire time he was out with injury, he could have learned a new song.
Well, no. Okay, see, I've listened to this. I've heard this about the learn a new song. How many people do you know that are still coming out to the same song they've been coming out to since they debuted on the roster?
No one.
I strongly disagree.
Every single person has had some type of an evolution of their music.
Okay, I'll give you that slight evolution.
I have been listening to What's Up since 2001. I'm tired. He owns his own recording studio in his home. At least remix it. Do something. Come on, please.
All right, R-Truth, you heard it. Now, understand, Rick's my boy, but if you send the Wyatts, I had nothing to do with this. I tried to warn him. I'm so invested in this. Like, setting aside all the talk about R-Truth and all that, The Miz is someone who can draw you into any storyline. The Miz could have a story. He could be Perry Saturn and have a whole segment with him and Moppy, and he would draw you into it. Because that's who The Miz is. That's what The Miz does. Yeah, I brought up Moppy.
I can't hear Perry Saturn's name without thinking about how crazy his eye is. Because there was a spot they did backstage way back when China and Eddie were a duo, and Perry was talking to him, and the whole time that he was talking to Eddie, China was like trying to determine which eye was which. It was really funny. It was really.
So I'm not going to put any names out there because apparently you can get in trouble for that. But I have an uncle that whenever my cousin and I would get in trouble, like he would get in trouble and my uncle would be yelling at him. But my uncle had a very lazy eye, like this. Yeah. And so I didn't know which one of us he was yelling at because I'm over here and he's supposed to be yelling at my cousin, but he's looking at both of us. Yeah. Like, that's a superpower.
Yeah. Well, I mean, right now, the only person that we really have to deal with that right now is Shawn Michaels.
True.
Shawn Michaels' eye is so lazy it draws unemployment. So
I like that. That's very good. Well, one of the other things we got from R-Truth in his segment is run-in with Pete Dunne. And, of course, funny as hell. Use the word that Pete Dunne doesn't like, calls him Butch. And so I feel like we start getting some R-Truth, Pete Dunne kind of stuff, which would be good. I mean, that'll be good matches.
If I can get 3 or 4 segments of Pete Dunne breaking R-Truth's fingers, that'd be awesome.
And then, of course, we have Dirty Dominic Mysterio going
Yeah.
over on Damian Priest to be
Dirty as hell.
considered for a number one contenders match.
He went over dirty as hell.
Well, he is Dirty Dom. I mean,
Oh,
of course, Priest after the match, he gets the dirty roll up. After the match, he just annihilates
Yeah.
everybody.
yeah, he
And
killed everyone. Killed everyone.
the thing that cracks me up about this is that now Dom is going to be considered for a number one contenders match.
Yeah.
Does he realize like has he thought about this? Has he thought this through? Because does he realize that means he has to go against Gunther?
I hope that we get to a place where he actually has an advertised match against Gunther, and I need Gunther to rip off Dom's top, and I need him to chop him so hard that like I want to
test into chicken
I want
tendies.
to I want to see the ripples in the chest. But do you know how fun that would be for Gunther to just beat the hell out of Dominic Mysterio? I
I'm
mean,
down.
dude. If they
Yes.
don't do that, they're leaving money on the table.
I'm not going to talk about this until next week's podcast because it involves a spoiler. But I am going to have some things to say about Dominic Mysterio on the next podcast. Because this is, I can't use that word. This is not good. Dom, I don't know what drugs. It's got to be drugs. He's drugging everybody's drink. It's got to be. It's the only explanation. We'll talk more about that next week. But
Yeah.
one thing about this match, though, of course, Judgment Day comes out, but was missing one member who stayed backstage, that being Finn Balor.
Yeah.
Noticing some cracks in the Judgment Day.
Finn definitely does not look pleased. And I don't know exactly where they're going to go with that. But, you know, you've heard Liv say out loud that, you know, her and Finn and Dom were kind of in on stuff. Obviously, Finn has JD as his student and his number one guy. Finn kind of is the de facto leader of the Judgment Day, or at least that's the way he's looked at. Maybe he doesn't feel that anymore, and that's why he's upset. I just like that they're giving him a story so that we can find out where it's going to go and see what happens.
Hashtag free Finn Balor.
I think it's very, very possible that they lose the tag team titles next week.
Very possible.
Yeah, I mean, this could lead to the Demon coming back. I don't know.
Like
I don't
I
know.
said, hashtag free Finn Balor. Been saying it for a while.
Well, we'll have to see, because, you know, if you take Finn out of the Judgment Day, then you're going to have to answer the question, what next?
The thing is, a lot of times when you ask that question, there's not a good answer. With Finn Balor, there's always an answer. There's any number of people you could put him up against, right? You could put him straight into the mix with Melo Andrade and Knight, and he'd be great. You could put him
Potentially.
straight into the mix with Priest and Seth Rollins and Cody, and like you can drop him pretty much anywhere in any of these storylines, and everything except the bloodline. Any storyline you got going on except the bloodline, you could drop Finn Balor into, and he could make it work.
He could, but then you have to answer the question of, does he win?
Not
If
always.
he wins, who does he beat? And who's out there that's worthy of beating? Who can be beaten without hurting them? What situation can we put him in to put emphasis on the character without doing somebody else damage? It's just one of those things that you got to really, if you could take a character like Finn, who's been on a back burner for a long time, doesn't have a ton of singles wins, has been mostly tags, if you're going to pull him out of the Judgment Day and you're going to put him on his own, I just hope that whatever they do with him, they've thought it through and they've got a plan and they can execute it in a way that doesn't lead to the exact same people who are begging for Finn to be on his own to then be upset because he didn't win or who he beat or who he didn't beat.
Right.
Because if you're going to pull him out of this situation and put him right into another, you have to take into account what has he been doing that led us here, and is it worthy to then take him and propel him up, or is he just going to flounder in another situation that is not focused on him?
See, I would see if he were to leave the Judgment Day, I would see it almost as an Austin-esque kind of character. He's getting pops because he's left the Judgment Day, so he's getting face pops, but he'll beat the hell out of any face you put in front of him, which gets him that heel heat as well. So I see him as kind of the ultimate tweener. And I personally would like to see another good run between Seth Rollins and Finn Balor.
Yeah. I mean, those could be good matches. Those could be really good matches.
There's history there. There's reasons for them to have problems with each other.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, they've obviously started planting the seeds. So we'll just have to see how long it takes them to get there.
Yeah. That does it for the main roster moments. Before we go into NXT, I do want to say, if you haven't done it already, please click the subscribe, click the likes, click all the things. Go to all the socials, click all the things.
Yes, click all the things.
Now that we have that put out there, let's talk a little bit about NXT. Great show last night.
Dude.
I was highly impressed. And the big talk for all of NXT, setting aside the matches that happened, the big talk is the fact that next Wednesday night, NXT not only goes head to head with AEW, but does so at the 2300 Arena. And for those that are not familiar, for those that are sitting there going, 2300 Arena, that sounds really familiar. Well, it should, because that would be the ECW Arena.
Very much so. Very much so. And we already know that the card itself is filling up very quickly with ECW talent.
Mm-hmm.
We know that Bubba Ray Dudley is involved in a match. If Bubba's there, you can almost bet Devon's going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
We know Dawn Marie is special referee for one of the women's matches. We know that Rob Van Dam was backstage at NXT last night, and he made allusions to showing up at the show, that he knew what he wanted to do. Tony D got a phone call from Nunzio, a.k.a. Little Guido Maritato of the FBI. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of names that, WWE has a good relationship right now with TNA. I can't see any world where Tommy Dreamer and Rhino aren't available. Blue Meanie tends to show up everywhere anytime he wants to.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who could appear on this show. But I think the cool thing about it is knowing how Shawn Michaels does his stuff. I don't think that he will allow anybody from that era to come in and not benefit somebody currently on the roster. They're not going to come in and be the focal point. They're not going to come in and overshadow. They're going to come in and they're going to accentuate and lift up the current talent. And that's the way it should be.
So talking about that's the big talk right now is the Bubba Ray Dudley and Trick Williams match that's coming on that show. And we talked a little bit earlier about how far into the match do you think it goes before Bubba Ray slaps Trick Williams in the chest and says, "Get the tables." I don't think that happens. Since we've discussed that earlier, I've changed my mind, because what a moment would it be for Trick Williams to turn around and slap Bubba Ray in the chest and say, "Bubba, get the tables.
That would be very funny. That would be a great turn. I think that'd be awesome. I think it'd be great if Bubba sold it as like, what?
Wait a minute, that's
Like,
my line.
I think that would be very funny.
That's
I
when you have
do think
Devon outside in the crowd going, ha ha ha.
I think that could be very entertaining. Either way, whichever one of them does the slapping and whichever one of them grabs the table, I firmly believe and I've thought about this more since we talked about it. I firmly believe that whatever happens, Bubba's the one who ends up going through a table, and I think that Ethan and Ridge walk out the winners of the match.
And that is very possible. The other thing I had thought of was if you have that moment where Trick Williams tells Bubba to get the table, and they set the table up, they set up the 3D, and where Bubba's normally the one that hits the action part of the 3D, you have Trick Williams do that part. I think they could win in that situation because it's still putting Trick over.
They could, and I think if the baby faces do win, it will be Trick that gets the pin. It will be Trick that has the spotlight on him because Bubba doesn't need that. But I think that one of the things that Shawn Michaels has shown that he's very good at is he understands that more times than not, your heels need to have the advantage to allow the baby faces to build to their moment.
Faces change.
And yeah, and I feel like, this is a situation where I could see Bubba losing the match and, having Trick get double teamed and maybe then having somebody make the save, But I just think,
Right.
I think that Shawn Michaels understands that, and I think this boils down to the fact that Shawn is an old school guy and he understands the territory feel that you always need to keep your heat on your heels.
Yes.
Always. Vince McMahon loved the cowardly heel that constantly was at the disadvantage and the face was going over. But if you look at a lot of the baby faces that Vince built, not many of them were compelling baby faces. They were guys that it didn't take long for fans to be like, we don't like it.
Yeah.
And that's because you can only watch Hogan pose so many times before you're done. And you can only watch Cena come back from unsurmountable odds so many times. You've got to give them a chance, the crowd, you got to give the crowd a chance to swell up and get that groundswell of support. And you can't do that if you don't keep the heat on the heels.
What a thing it would be to go with what you were talking about, where something happens to Bubba, you get the double team on Trick Williams, so somebody comes out to make the save. What a kind of pop would it get if that somebody was Spike Dudley?
Oh, that'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Awesome. I always liked Spike Dudley.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. I think that'd be good. I wouldn't hate that at all.
I'd be about it. One of the other big things that happened on NXT last night, we've got for next Wednesday a 10-woman tag.
Oh my God!
Run! All right, I'm gonna let you do this one. Run it. Run the names in
this. This was my favorite part of the show, and it is what I am looking forward to the most next week. So if you didn't see NXT, go out of your way, go on YouTube, whatever you got to do, go out of your way to at least watch this part because this was great. You had Zarya had just had a squash match against Carly Bright.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And you had Fatal Influence and Cora Jade and Roxanne are trying to get at Zarya, and you got Kalani Jordan standing with her, but it's like 2-on-5. And then you have Stephanie Vacour and Julia show up, and now it's 4-on-5. And Roxanne Perez has the microphone, and she's like, okay, 4-on-5, we're good with that. And they all step through the ropes, and the sirens hit, and Jordan Grace comes out.
Yes.
And the place loses their mind. And Booker T lost his mind. They all lost their minds. She hits the ring, and now it's 5-on-5, and they go at it. And the place is losing their minds. Okay,
Absolute
losing
brawl.
their minds for this. I mean, what? Kalani Jordan is fine. I like Kalani Jordan just fine. But Zarya, who has been built up as a complete beast, Julia and Stephanie Vacour, who just had an amazing tag team match this past weekend, and then Jordan Grace, who has been used as a superstar every time she's there. You take those 5 women together, I mean, plus, you have Fatal Influence and Cora and Roxanne on the other side. That is a hell of a 10-woman tag.
Yeah, it is.
My God, that is so much fun. Like, I can't even believe how cool that is.
Like, the only thing you hear all those names, and you think to yourself, the only thing that could make that better would be like Rhea Ripley. But wait, she shows up on the show too, and wishes the team of Zarya and everybody go out there and kick their ass, which was awesome. However, things didn't go quite well for her after that, because it is the NXT parking lot, and
Liv and Raquel showed up.
Yep.
And beat the hell out of her with lead pipes.
Saw a post earlier just before the show that WWE has stated that she has broken the attack broke her right orbital bone.
Yep.
Orbital socket, and she's going to be out for an undisclosed amount of time.
I think she shows back up with the face mask.
Could be.
I don't think she's going to be off TV for a long period of time. I think she'll show up. I think she'll show up with a face mask. I could be wrong, but just looking at that moment with Rhea in the locker room with all those girls, and kind of knowing what they've been doing in NXT with like who's paired off with who and who has a problem with who, I feel like, and just come with me on this, I feel like if Fatal Influence jumped Kalani Jordan and she's out, and then on the heel side, you got Zarya takes out Jasmine Nix and JC Jane because she's such a badass. Then you would have Cora, Roxanne, Fallon, and over here you'd have Jordan, Stephanie, Julia, Zarya. Add Liv, add Raquel, add Rhea. War games.
Yeah.
War games.
Trips.
That's a hell of a war games.
I know you watch the show, Trips. Mr. Levesque, I know you watch the show because, why wouldn't you? We're not your average marks. Make that happen. I mean, immediately, if not sooner.
And the cool thing about that is Rhea's from Raw. You've got Liv and Raquel. You've got Liv and Raquel from Raw. And you've got everybody else would be NXT. how cool would it be to have all these women on Raw beating the hell out of each other? Adam Pearce comes out, he's got the mic, and you know what everybody's waiting for. But then instead, he turns and hands the mic over to Ava, and she says War Games.
That would be awesome. I'm telling Mr. Levesque. Make it happen.
That's a hell of a War Games, dude.
Yeah, it is. So, one other thing I want to talk about with NXT. Of course, we had Charlie Dempsey versus Lexis King last night, and it's just crazy to me to see that match happen and see William Regal on Lexis King's side of it without the explanation. You know, normally they do the whole explaining thing. For those that are unaware, Charlie Dempsey is William Regal's son.
Yes.
So it's just weird to see that. I'm for it. Don't get me wrong. I'm about it. But I'm curious to see where they go with that, because there's obviously an underlying story there that they haven't told us yet.
I mean, they've alluded to it so many times without saying it. So I feel like at some point it will be said. It's just a matter of how long it takes us to say it. And who says it first? Does Regal say it, or does Charlie Dempsey say it? You know, one person that I hope doesn't say it, and he has a track record for saying things about stuff like that, would be Paul Heyman. So keep him away from a microphone, because I will tell you still to this day, I've never almost choked to death watching wrestling like I did in 1998 or 97, sorry, when Paul Heyman is on commentary, and in the ring, Brian Christopher is facing Chris Candido, and Heyman's watching it, and Vince is sitting here, and Ross is sitting here, and they just had the great debate with Heyman and Lawler on Raw the previous week. And Jim Ross says, you know, Paul, we have a live mic here with you tonight. Is there something that you'd like to say? And Heyman's like, he looks over and he says, do you want me to ruin Raw again, JR? And JR's like, I'm just saying the mic is live. And Vince McMahon's like, and Heyman goes, okay, I'll just say it. Brian Christopher is Jerry Lawler's son. And I'm at home eating, and I'm like, because I knew that. Smart fans knew that. But no one had ever said that on television. Ever. They had feuded in Memphis for years. They had never said they were father and son. Heyman said it, and I nearly died.
Literally.
And then Lawler stomps his way down the ramp, walks around the ring, and lays Heyman out at the table. And so, yeah, if you're going to reveal that people are people's sons, just keep Heyman out of it. Keep Heyman out of it.
See, if I was going to write it to where the revelation was made, I would have Dempsey in the ring saying something about, I was always taught by my father to do this, and have Regal come out and say, I never once told you that. That's the way I would write it.
Oh, yeah.
Needless to say, NXT has been absolutely on fire. Great show. And we're going to go from that to the exact opposite as we bring you Notes from the Clown Show. I've got some questions. Tony Khan, if you're watching, you're a clown. But I've got questions. The first one being this last Wednesday. House of Black in a match against some locals. Quick squash match to some jobbers.
Yeah.
Archer and Cage in a squash match against some jobbers. Why? House of Black, there's no reason House of Black should be fighting jobbers.
I'm sure that the answer is I don't use these guys enough on television for people to care. So I'm just going to have some random squashes so that we can say that they're being used.
Here's an
They
idea.
just they just
Follow me with this.
they just they kind of repackaged Lance Archer. I mean, he looks like Timu Drew McIntyre now. So I mean, you know, am I wrong?
Not even a little bit.
I mean, come on. That's what he looks like.
He does.
He looks like he is cosplaying as Drew McIntyre at a Comic-Con.
I can't not see it now.
He absolutely does.
I can't not see it.
He looks like he bought a Drew McIntyre costume at Walmart.
I love it. I love it. But he and Brian Cage, the talent they have, I mean, I get it. I need to give them some TV time. Here's a thought, and follow me here.
Yeah.
Put them in a storyline.
Well, and that's true, but I will tell you, and you know, because I've said it a lot, I don't have a problem with squash matches. Because in my viewpoint, getting a talent in the ring and allowing that talent to show you a series of big moves and get a nice win, while the commentators talk about how dangerous or how amazing or whatever they are, helps to build that character's story and his character arc. Now, granted, you got to have a story and a character arc, so I get that we don't have that. But squash matches are good things if you have a plan, but they're also a nice way to keep people from being forgotten. And so
Here's my problem with that logic, though. You've got, Wish Drew McIntyre, and you've got Brian Cage, and they're in the ring for, I think it was 42 seconds. Against people who, granted, the guys were fairly good size that they went against. But it was obvious that they were no match. And 42 seconds later, the match is over. What have you done? What story have you told?
Well, you haven't told a story. All you've done is you've shown two guys that you apparently are intending to push because you've repackaged them both with a new manager and you've put them in a group. So you obviously have something in mind. So you want people to see them, and if your alternative to the squash is they're not on TV at all, that's the most unproductive thing you could do with them. So,
and while I understand that,
I'm not against it. It could always be better, but Tony Khan has flat out said out loud of his mouth that long-term storytelling is not a thing anymore. He believes that. He believes that stories are week to week, month to month. And if he's not planning to do anything sweeping and gigantic, squash matches might be the best we can hope for.
Well, here's my thing, though. And this seems easy to me. I don't know why it doesn't. Maybe you can tell me where I'm wrong on this. You got Archer and Cage in a squash match. You got House of Black in a squash match. But what if you had Archer and Cage against, is it Malachi Black, Aleister Black? I don't remember what his name is.
It's Malachi Black, Buddy Matthews, and Brody King.
Okay, let's leave Malachi Black out of it. Put Brody King and Buddy Matthews against Archer and Cage, and let's have a match.
Okay. Well, and then, so if we do that, House of Black has been very abused over the last couple of years. They don't have a lot of credibility. They have cool entrances. They have cool gear, cool videos. But nobody thinks House of Black is winning anything. Lance Archer and Brian Cage, with the exception of a tiny period of time where Brian Cage has held an ROH championship, which is the equivalent of the crown jewel title at this point. So you had these two guys who have also done a giant handful of nothing. Both groups need to be built up. Both groups need to have some focus. If we just put them together and just have a match, somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. And now we get to a point to where if you're on the side of Lance Archer and Brian Cage, yay, they got a nice win on TV over House of Black. But you've got probably just as much people online saying, why the hell did they job out the House of Black?
Well, here, allow me a moment to do Tony Khan's job for him. You have the match, Buddy Matthews, Brody King, Archer, and Cage. You have the match. Archer and Cage go over with a pin on Buddy Matthews. They're already got a few issues going on with Buddy Matthews. You have Julia Hart come back. Julia Hart and Malachi Black, and they all get together. They kick Buddy Matthews out of the House of Black. You can build a story out of that.
Yeah, you can.
And I honestly feel like that's where we're going, is they're going to take Buddy Matthews out of the House of Black. But all that set aside, that can be a catalyst. But I digress. This is Tony Khan we're talking about. Question number 2 for Tony Khan. Ricochet. You bring him in this big casino match. Big debut. And immediately, let's put him up against Will Ospreay. But don't do it on a pay-per-view. Let's just do it on TV. And then you job him out to Nick Wayne?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm tired of my new toy.
Yeah, that is basically what it boils down to, in my opinion.
Now, you could also look at it as Ricochet came in, showed everybody what he can do, got a nice set of reactions, and got in the ring with a guy who we know is not amazing, but he's young and he's had a lot of story. If this is the beginning of Ricochet having an issue with the patriarchy, then I can see doing what they did. But odds of that being the case are few and far between.
Mm-hmm. Quite slim.
Because more than likely it was just a match. And because we only book matches and we don't like to not have clean finishes, wins and losses really don't matter. Otherwise, we'd still have a ranking system, but we don't.
Nope.
So, again, I think the reason that Ricochet probably didn't have a problem with it is because Ricochet went to AEW for one reason. Because he gets to do all of the things that WWE told him not to do.
That's fair.
He didn't go
in every match.
He didn't go for money. He could have made that in WWE. He didn't go for his girlfriend because she was still there when he left. He didn't go over there so that he could hang out with his buddies. He went over there so that he could fly around, flip around, do his superhero landings, and go through the trope of him versus Will Ospreay over and over and over again. The man's had what, 4 or 5 matches since he showed up?
Mm-hmm.
Every single match, he's done the same series of flips. That's what he wanted to do. He went to AEW for the same reason that Moxley went, for the same reason that everybody else goes, because they want to do all the indie shit that they're not supposed to do And WWE's not going to let them do it. So we're going to go where they will let us do it.
I'm glad you brought up Jon Moxley. And before I get to him, I have to give you flowers. Bravo for the shot at Adam Cole there. John.
Yeah, Adam Cole says, "Oh, I'm going to go ahead and end my career in AEW. I have no desire whatsoever to leave or go anywhere else." Yeah, because he doesn't like to go to the gym, and he knows that as soon as Britt Baker's contract's up, she's going to the WWE. So since they're not together anymore, he better stay in AEW.
Yeah. So Jon Moxley, riddle me this, Batman. Is he supposed to be Hall or Nash in this like new Aryan world order thing that's happening?
Well, since he's not near either guy as far as talent goes, and he certainly doesn't have the size, I'm going to say he's Buff Bagwell.
I could go with that. We could get him a hat.
We can get him a hat. He has a gas mask at home.
He does. We've seen it.
We've seen it.
I saw a video, and I'll have to find it to get the comparison again, but it was an Outsiders promo next to something Moxley was doing, and it was damn near word for word. Like this is Outsiders Takeover version 2.0 or version -1. I mean, however you want to look at it. But I don't know, man. And the person that should be feeling the worst about this is somebody you and I have discussed earlier, Tony Schiavone. I have pity for Tony Schiavone because the man's like, okay, WCW didn't work. WCW tried to go against Vince, Monday Night Wars. We won for a little while, and then it all went to shit. AEW has obviously learned from that, and they're going to do it right. So I'm going to go over here. And now we've got the NW remake. He's dancing when Private Party comes out like he's Pat McAfee. And he's got to be sitting there just going, I'm reliving my worst nightmare.
Those who do not learn from the past are doomed to repeat it.
True.
Tony Schiavone has made his bed, and now he gets to lie in it. Granted, his mattress is full of money.
True.
So I'm sure that's why he doesn't care. But Tony Schiavone made a decision a long time ago when he left a really good job and a really nice standing in WWE and went back down south and then, never got a chance to go back. And he was out of the business till Conrad Thompson dug him up and started the podcast stuff with him. And then because Conrad was friends with Cody and Tony Khan, Tony Schiavone gets a job.
Fair.
So, look, I like Tony Schiavone as an announcer. He was one of the voices of my childhood. But Tony Schiavone is known for making incredibly poor decisions.
He is. I picture him in that meme. You see the dog in the house with all the fire going everywhere, talking about, I'm fine. It's all fine.
Yeah.
Like, I picture him in that. Well, and that is our notes from the clown show for tonight. And let's go from something. Let me end that with the point that needs to be made very clear. Tony Khan, you, sir, are a clown. Let's go from something that really sucks into something that doesn't. And that's the Crown Jewel. It's time for predictions because Crown Jewel is this Saturday. So let's start with the triple threat for the U.S. title. You've got Knight, you've got Melo, you've got Andrade. What do you think? What do we get?
I'm going to tell you what I'd like to see happen, and I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen.
Okay.
I would like to see Carmelo Hayes come out of this with the U.S. title. I think it's going to go to a non-decision, and nothing's going to happen.
Okay. Me personally, I think Melo walks away with the title. I feel like that's the way this is going to go down. It cements him into place, and it allows LA Knight to chase.
Yeah.
So
I think that's what I'd like to see. But I also know that they're very interested right now in creating content for TV. And if it goes to a non-decision, it's an easy main event for SmackDown.
true. We go from that into the four-way women's tag team title match. Jade and Bianca versus Damage Control versus Piper and Chelsea versus Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. What do you got?
I'd like to see the NXT girls walk out with it. I think that the champions retain.
I am with you on that. I think that it is a great match, a showcase style match. And I think Jade and Bianca retain, and it gives some build up for Lash Legends and Jakara Jackson take on the champs at Survivor Series or maybe later.
I also would not hate it if Piper and Chelsea won. But if they do, it has to be Chelsea getting the pin, and it has to be completely by accident.
Yes. There's got to be some comedic effect to it. Seth Rollins versus Bronson Reed.
I would really like to see Bronson Reed win this. I think Seth Rollins is going to win.
This is the one I have going to a no contest.
There you go.
I think I say no contest because I think with the trajectory that Bronson Reed is on, a loss here hurts him.
Unless Seth wins because the ref stops it because Bronson is out of control. Then that loss doesn't hurt Bronson Reed.
That's true. I didn't think about that. But on the other side of that, it kind of keeps Seth in a bit of mediocrity if he loses to Bronson again. That's why I see this one going to a no contest, or possibly, like you're saying, having a ref stoppage. Some sort of finish like that that's not a shoulders on the mat 1, 2, 3.
If we do a non-decision, or if the ref stops it because of Bronson going unhinged, whichever one, if either one of those happens, I feel like the great payoff on TV is for Bronson to murder Adam Pearce.
Fair.
Because of all the people that have been destroyed, Pearce is the one who's in Bronson's face all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Pearce getting 5 or 6 tsunamis would be awesome.
That would be okay. I would be all right with that.
Really cool.
So you've got Seth. I've got a no decision. We go to Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens.
I would like to see KO win it, but I think it's better for his character if he doesn't.
I get you. I've got Owens down as winning this one dirty to set up a future match between him and Cody.
I think he loses here, and then out of frustration, he costs Cody later in the night.
Okay. Women's Crown Jewel Championship. Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax.
I think Nia has to win it, or at least look like she's going to win it, till we get something involving Tiffany. But I would be lying if I don't think that at the very end of whatever they do, Liv is the one who walks out the winner.
And see, I have it going the other way. I have Nia walking out the winner in this one. I think there's big dissension among the ranks with her and Tiff. But I think that at some point, Tiffany gets squashed like a bug. And I'm okay with that.
Another reason I don't think Nia comes out winning it in the end is because she won the queen crown already.
Hmm.
I can't see her winning this belt too.
I mean, I guess that makes sense. I that's true because that was in Saudi also.
Yes.
Mm,
There's a lot of ifs though. Tiffany is an if. Raquel Rodriguez is an if.
hmm.
Rhea Ripley is an if.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ifs right now. Dominic Mysterio being involved in some way is an if.
If I
Uh,
had to throw out an if, my if would be Raquel Rodriguez gets involved and Rhea shows up and decks her with a pipe.
yeah, that could be fun.
That takes us to the men's crown jewel championship. Cody versus Gunther.
I think either way, I would like to see Gunther win, and I think Gunther will win.
I think whoever wins, we win.
Well, it's going to be a good match, but I absolutely believe KO costs Cody that match
See,
because I think we're getting Cody KO at Survivor Series.
I think we are too, and I see it a little differently. I see Cody winning this match, and as soon as the match is over, KO comes out and confronts him. Randy comes out, and we go off the air with the three of them in the middle of the ring.
That's possible. That's possible.
That's what I see in my vision here.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Yeah, I mean any of that could be fine.
Any of that happens is going to be great. Like I told you this the other day when we were talking that I always kind of set Crown Jewel, the Saudi stuff off to the side because I have things. When you say Saudi Arabia, I have things tied to that were bad. I have the DX and Brothers of Destruction match, the Titus O'Neil nose diving under the stage or under the ring. There's Taker and Goldberg. I mean, there's just really bad matches that I have tied to that. This is the first time I've seen a show going down in Saudi that I'm excited about.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a match that I'm not excited to see.
This is a really good card. There's actually one more match, but that is tied to spoilers.
Yeah, that's tied to spoilers.
It's absolutely. I mean, it is happening. There's a graphic out for it, but it's tied to spoilers. So it'll be made by the end of SmackDown. But it's yeah. So we don't have to talk about it.
Yeah, we can't talk about it because they haven't put it out officially yet.
Yeah.
So there is one more match, and I think anybody who has been paying any attention at all knows exactly what that is. But because it is a spoiler, we are not going to say it on the show. I do suggest that everybody watch SmackDown on
absolutely watch SmackDown on Friday.
There are some really great things happening, and you'll be glad you watched it.
Yeah, it reads like a really good show.
Well, that does it for us tonight. It's been a lot of fun going through everything. Rick, I appreciate you being on the show as always.
Sure.
It's always a lot of fun to talk these things with you because I get some perspective that I may not have thought about beforehand, and it really gets me thinking about, okay, could this happen? Could that happen? So I always appreciate your knowledge and your ability to make me think. So thank you once again for coming on the show.
Yeah, no problem.
We will be back next week talking about Crown Jewel, the fallout from it, talking about Dominic Mysterio and that son of a. You'll see. Watch SmackDown. Watch SmackDown. You'll see why I'm mad. You'll understand. But we will be here 8:00 next Thursday live, not pre-recorded. We're back to live shows, and we've got some really cool stuff coming up. We've got BCW Draw the Line coming up, where yours truly will be a bit involved. We've got Square Circle Pro coming up, 16th of November. Is that right?
16th of November. Match announcements start Monday the 4th.
All right, so we'll have some information forthcoming on that. If you haven't had the opportunity, these are two of the best opportunities to get out and see local West Texas independent wrestling. And you'll be glad you did. If you go to any of the shows, tell them Guapo sent you. It's not going to do anything for you, but it'll make me feel cool. you know.
Uh,
But we will be back next week. Until then, I am Guapo. That is Rick Elsey. We're not your average marks. We'll catch y'all next time. Yeah.